Hi, everyone. Hi, Gina.
Hello, Angela.
So today we are in Australia the day after Easter. And Gina, where are you?
In Toronto, and we're still kind of the end of the day for Easter.
And I
Yeah.
think in several parts of the world, it's Ramadan, Passover. And in India, actually, they had a festival on the 14th of April, which is a full moon festival for something auspicious to initiate something. So, a lot of sacred holidays.
hmm
And today we're going to share on finding love through death and the message of the resurrection. Because I wrote that down. I don't know why, but I'm going to explore the message um, of resurrection. And um, yes, so I thought today, Gina, that we'd start with if you could share about your parents, because
hmm
last time I was talking about how I had communicated with my parents after they had died, and also how when we lose our parents, these strange things happen. And you've had a lot of strange things happen with your parents. Not that they're strange, but
No.
the actual losing or passing of your parents was quite miraculous and also mysterious to some degree. So, can you share with us what happened when your father passed first, or maybe the events leading up to his passing and how old you were and what was going on in your life? Because that might shed some light on how you found love through his passing.
So my father died at the age of 62, very young. He had cirrhosis of the liver. He was a drinker all his life, and he was writing. My parents had moved to Italy when I had my second child, and he was 1 year old. Yeah, they moved because my sister moved and they moved also. So they bought condominiums on the second floor, kind of adjacent to each other. So they had somebody there. And a year after my father went to Italy, he got really, really sick and he went into the hospital. And the doctor says, you need to stop drinking. You have like, if you stop drinking, you have another year to live, possibly, give or take a couple of months. If you don't, you'll die in the next 1 to 2 months. And at that point, my father gave up drinking 98% of the time. I mean, he just loved his wine. He liked a lot of wine. It was just wine. It wasn't alcohol. It was wine, right? So he gave up. He gave that up because he realized in that moment, what have I done? Because the doctor told him 10 years before, your liver's in bad shape, and if you stop drinking now, it can heal itself. But if you keep drinking, you have about 10 years, give or take a couple. And it was 10 years later that actually happened. But him moving to Italy and an Italian doctor telling him, I think it kind of sank in, and he realized, oh my God, like I got to go see my kids. So he was sick. He gave up drinking and he kept writing me these letters, and he wanted to come and visit us. And my mom kept saying, no, 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 no. But he wanted to come and see us. And for some wonderful miracle or hindsight, Italians have this thing that, they call it la migliore della morte, the best of the death, which means you either have a day that you kind of overcome everything that you have and you get up from the bed, touch the floor, say goodbye to everybody, and then you're gone. But my father had like a week of this, right? So where he started feeling good, he was feeling good, and he said to the doctor, "I want to go to Canada." And my mom kept fighting him. So my mom took him to the doctor because she thought the doctor would tell him, "You're not going."
Don't
But the
go. Yeah.
doctor took her aside. He goes, "Listen, if he's feeling good, this is God giving him his last wish. So go, just go." And when I saw my father, Angela, when he came, and this was 6 months after I gave him birth to my third child,
Yeah.
my baby Carmela, and my brother Matthew and his wife were giving birth to their first child, and they all thought it was going to be a boy called Gerardo, but lo and behold, it was a girl. And there was a big fight about that because my sister-in-law didn't want to call Carmela, and my mom, being Sicilian, she was a big fight for my father before the week before he died. But putting that aside, he came and I saw him, and he looked amazing. I've never seen my father look so good in his whole life. And it's like, Dad, you're telling me you're sick and you're dying. He goes, yeah, no, no. I goes, yeah, this is good. Yeah, God's giving me a miracle. This is a miracle. God is granting me my wish. And I didn't understand that feeling. And then what happened is that he went to stay. He came for 2 weeks, And I waited to baptize my daughter because I wanted my parents to be here. And within 3 days, he came here, started feeling not normal. And he was at my brother's house. And he goes, I want to go stay with Gina. So he came to my place and stayed with us, my parents. And this happened. He started getting a little bit sicker, and you could see the weight coming on. So the kidneys stopped. The
Oh,
kidneys stopped working. The liver
okay.
had shredded, and it
Oh,
had actually gone away. That's what happens to the liver. The liver and the lungs, if you don't take care of them, they'll actually melt away, right? And when my ex-husband brought him to the hospital because he was feeling sick, I didn't. He came back. He didn't tell us, but the doctor says you can't take him out. He's got no longer a liver, and he's going to get worse and worse, and he's going to die. And he goes, and my father said, no, 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 I want to go home because he didn't want to end up spending thousands of dollars on med care for my mom because he came here for a visit. So he came back to the house. And for the last, so this is like on a Tuesday, and they left on a Sunday. I was able to baptize my daughter on Saturday quickly. I went to the priest, says, priest, we have to baptize her. My father's dying, right? And so at this point, he had lost the function of his kidneys. He had no liver, the kidneys, and he had put on about 6 sizes because he was retaining fluid. And the pain he was in, it, it was in such, and nothing fit him anymore. He had to actually wear his pajamas that were really big on him to go to the airport, right? So this is Sunday morning. We wake up, we're getting ready to go. People are coming to say goodbye to him. My son wakes up and he's got a high fever, my middle child. It's like really high fever. The father takes him to the hospital. The doctor says, here's medication. Make sure you take care of him. I'm busy cooking. I got people coming to say goodbye to my parents because they're going to Italy. My father cannot stay up very much. If he laid down, he was having a hard time getting up because he had swelled up so much. And it was just so painful. And I couldn't really take care of him as much as I could because I had people coming, lunch to make. And then, and then my son was sick. So the father brings him back. He's in bed. I give him medication. I go downstairs. People are coming. And then we're getting ready. I help my father to get dressed. And as I'm getting him dressed, he says, no, he goes, God bless you, Gina. He says, you're a good woman. You're a good daughter. I love you. It's like, and I thought, okay, we're just going to get to Italy. And my sister was going to have an ambulance waiting for him, right? We're just about to go out to the door, and I can't find my son. My son disappeared. My son that was sick in bed. And I looked all throughout the house, in the closets, under the beds, everywhere. I didn't know where else to look. We went up in the attic. I couldn't find this child that was like, possibly 3.5 years old. And it's like, I couldn't find my baby, my 4-year-old son. It's like, okay. So then I get them, we're looking. And my father's like you see, like, he's just, like hanging in. And then I got all the neighbors. I said, listen, I need to take my father to the airport. But please, can you just keep looking for him? And like, I can't find my son. Please let me know. And I took my daughter, Carmela, with me. She was 6 months old, right? And John stuck around, he's the 5-year-old, 5.5-year-old boy, stuck around the house to help find his brother. And my father goes to the door and he's leaving. And I says, Dad, we have to say goodbye. He goes, no, no. He goes, I'll say goodbye to you at the airport. You didn't say goodbye to me. My father
oh,
didn't say goodbye to me, Angela. So he went in the car, and it was my brother had the big car. Him and my father was sitting in the front seat, and me and my other brother were me and my ex-husband, the man, and me and Carmela were sitting in the back, and my brother Joe had my father and my other brother, or whatever. Anyways, we were going to the airport. That 20 minutes, 30 minutes, we lost time looking for my son, delayed us from going to the airport, right? So when we
yeah,
left to go to the airport, we only made it 3 blocks away, and my father, he fell down, like his head hit
the
and the
car.
car stopped. Yeah, and the car stopped in front of us because we're following my brother, and all of a sudden it's like, and I see my brother, then he starts going again. So he had his first minor small heart attack, and
Oh,
he
he had a
fell.
heart attack in the car. And why
Yeah,
was the car in front stopping? I
because there
don't
was my
get that.
brother driving. My brother was in that car with my father. My brother Joe had a
Oh,
big car, and he was taking my parents in the
oh, I
car with
see. And
him,
you were in the
right?
car
And I was in the
behind.
car behind my brother's car, because we left our car behind. Figure we'll minimize the cars, right? And I had my daughter with me because everybody else is staying behind looking for my other son disappeared, right? Um, so we kept going, and all of a sudden the car stopped again. Maybe like not even 60 seconds. Stopped again, and my brother comes out and he's screaming and he's yelling, he's pulling his hair. Like, I'm thinking, like, what's going on? So my husband at the time caught on what was going on. He jumped out of the car. He told Joe, get in the back seat, or he was trying to resuscitate him. And he goes, and he said to Matthew, follow us. And then we turned around, and now we were like only 5 minutes away from the hospital, because if we'd left 20 minutes before, we would have been at the airport, and it would have been hard to get into the hospital right away.
Oh,
So the
okay.
whole missing of my son, I think it was like, I don't know,
A setup from
an
your
intervention from,
son.
yeah, yeah. He was 4 years old. I don't know. He doesn't know
Well,
where he
he's
is. He
little
doesn't.
angel up there,
Yeah,
wherever.
somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, made him like unseen, right? So we rushed to the house, and all the whole time we're rushing, like, like I'm shaking, and my little girl, 6 months old, is looking at me with these big eyes, fear in her eyes, just frightened. And we get to the hospital, and they take him in, and they do this and this and then they told us to wait, and they put a pacemaker on him, and
Oh
we go
my
looking, we
God.
go into yeah, we go into ICU, and and we're walking around, and the nurses goes, okay, and I said to my mom, I says, you wait here, let me go see what's going on, right? Let me go see what's going on. So I go inside the ICU unit, and when I first we saw him the first time, he had the tube in his mouth and the machines all hooked up and the blood, the beating of the heart, and everything was shut down, and his eyes were open. The tube was gone. I thought, oh my God, he's okay! Like, yay, it's like a miracle.
It's a miracle. Ah, you gotta
And then
ask. You gotta
and
ask for your miracles. Yeah.
and then I heard the nurse saying, "Oh, the daughter's in here." I was like, "Oh, that's not good.
Oh,
That's
good.
not good."
No.
And then I saw something that really blew me away, because you have to understand, my mom and my dad were living in Italy, right? They moved because then my father moved to Italy because he wanted to get close to his homeland. He wanted to be buried there. He didn't like being fixed up. He goes, I don't like the way they put they drain people's blood and they put all the stuff fluid in him, because I don't want to be fixed up. I want to be dead, natural, and put in my grave, right? Well, as the universe would have it, he died in Canada. And we had to fix him up even more so because he traveled to Italy in a coffin. But here I
Oh.
am in this. This is why we can't say what we want, because it doesn't usually happen that way. So I'm looking at him. I thought, oh my God, is he dead? But his eyes were open, because he had swelled up so much that his eyes were literally open. The fluid in his just swelled
Oh.
up. And they took all this stuff out of his mouth because they're waiting for us to come back to tell us, right? And I'm looking at him, and I saw him lifting up. So I literally saw his half body lift up, and my jaw just went like, am I seeing? Is this for real? I says, like, what happened? Like, I says, where are you going? And then I saw my nonna, his mom. I only saw half of her body. She was like in a cloud. It was like a gray cloud underneath, and then she always had like, I saw pictures of her always wearing a black dress and her hair up in a button, right?
Yeah.
Nonna Maria, right? And I saw her come down and extend her hand to him, and he gives his hand to her, and I says, where are you going? Like, what does it mean? What's going on? I'm talking to this man that's dead, and I'm seeing this. And he turned around and said to me, goes, I'm going to a good place, but you have to take care of mom. What do you mean I got to take care of mom? She lives in Italy. How am I going to take care of mom? Where are you going? Don't leave. And he left. He left. His mom came to get him. And then I went outside. I told everybody what happened. Of course, my mom had a fit, and the doctor had to give her a needle to calm her down. And I'm thinking, like, I got to take care of mom. Like, it was so vivid. It's like I'm talking to you right now. He says, I'm going to a good place, but you have to take care of mom. She's put on my responsibility. It's like, what? What do you mean? It's like, no, she's in Italy. How would I take care of her? And then that night, after we everything kind of whatever, we went home, and I found out that. So when I went home, I had called at one point, and they says, yeah, because my ex-husband, the father of Carmela, took her away because she started like looking really scary, the poor little girl. So he took her home, and I was left there. And when he came back, he goes, yeah, they found PJ. Where was he? In his bed. So what do you mean he was in his bed? Where did he go? To this day, nobody knows what happened to Paul, my son, in that in those 30 minutes, 45 minutes, because they were looking for him throughout the whole neighborhood. They were knocking on doors, they were looking in the ditches, they were looking everywhere they found him in bed. So that night when we went home, and my mom was finally sleeping, and the kids had finally gone to bed, and my ex-husband was finally sleeping because he was being weird. I'm sitting in the kitchen just contemplating everything that happened that day. And my father never slept well all night. He used to walk a lot. He was not a good sleeper. I'm sitting in the kitchen at the table and I'm thinking like, what are we gonna do? Oh my God! And what's next? And what's happening? And just kind of taking it in. And I heard him walking in the hallway. He went to check up on his wife.
Oh,
He stopped at the door where she was sleeping. He looked in on my babies, and then he walked towards because he was in the hallway. And he went towards the door of the kitchen, and he looked at me, and he says, "I'll be around." I didn't hear him this time or see him, but I felt his presence, and I heard him in my head. I'll be here. I'm gonna help you with this, and then I felt his presence. Then, of course, the next day, my son was doing a little bit better, but my daughter got really, really sick. She got a fever and she got an infection in her throat, and she couldn't swallow anything. So she needed a lot of love and attention, which my mom had to give her because I was busy cooking and people came from the States and people came to visit and I had to prepare a funeral. I had to talk to dignitaries and the church. And so her time was spent taking care of my little baby, and she needed to do that. So this is how I believe God gives us things to do at times. And they may not look like they're the best things because her being sick that way, like she couldn't like swallow for 3 days, poor kid. And I was crying, constantly crying. And my mom needed to have the patience, and she did because this is her Carmela. Because she had a big fight with my brother and his wife because they wouldn't name their daughter Carmela. That's when Princess Diana died, and she had to name her daughter Diana. And my mom goes, "No, it's a tradition. You have to name your name." And I would say to my mother, "But leave it alone, leave it alone. It's like you already have a Carmela. Like okay, we can call her Carmela, you know." And I'm trying to talk to my sister-in-law, saying, "Like, just call her Carmela for a second name, and then whatever. Like, make my mom happy. Like it's no." So she was upset. My mom was upset. My father was sick, and he was watching this whole fight going on. And then I got mad at my sister-in-law. I says, "No, my father's dying, and you don't even have any compassion for this man that's on his deathbed. No, you nor my mother." I said, "Because I gave my mom shit too, right?" I said, "Like, who cares about a name? Who cares?" Um, and then kind of everything. And I told my sister-in-law, I said, "If my father dies, I'll never want to talk to you." Like, and then
oh no.
oh yeah, and then I shut my mouth. But I didn't, because I could see him dying. You see your father dying, and you're being obstinate about a name. Like, give your daughter the name Carmela for a second name. Say, you know what? Yeah, we'll call her Carmela, whatever. Make these old people, these Sicilian people happy. My mother, and but she didn't know, she didn't care. And I said, "I understand it's your baby. I totally get it." So there was this other like drama that was going on, and my father had to endure this through his pain, and it's like, whatever. So that kind of broke up that relationship for life with my sister-in-law, and I gave my mom shit, and so my mom now had to take care of my child, and the people came from the States. My father's uncle came, so there was a lot of things going on. We had to have a funeral here, then we had to take him away. So he was here for another 10 days after that to get all of the
Your
papers.
uncle was your
My
so
father's
who
my
was
father my second uncle. My father. So this is my father's father brother. My
okay.
grandfather's brother. Yeah, he lived to be like almost 100, and he came to see his nephew die here in Canada. Um, but that was interesting. The whole thing about my son where to go and my daughter being sick, and the whole thing was, and just the whole thing, and then when he left, the second part of me left with him. But I saw him, and he told me. And as life turns out, moving forward, my sister eventually came back to live to Canada. My mom came with her because my mom couldn't be alone. She didn't want to be left alone. And she moved back to Canada, I think 2 years later.
So
And
your sister was actually still in Italy at the time,
my sister was in Italy when, yeah, because they moved
and
together. And then my sister and her husband moved back because my brother-in-law was sick, and she couldn't find work, and things that they had planned to do, things that they were like the stores they opened up, whatever, it was not working. So it was a whole like collapsing of financials and stuff like that. So they came back here again, and they built the house, and my mom came back. And when she came back, my brother insisted, "No, no, she's going to live with me." And I thought, "Okay, Dad, see, you were wrong. She's not staying with me. She's staying with her firstborn
my
son,
si
right?"
oh, yeah,
And
yeah,
so many moons later, I don't know how long later, because my mother moved in with me. So my father was 62, my mom was 7 years younger. Um, my brother eventually, well, he is who he is, and I had to go pick her up, and she stayed with me. And she ended up staying with me for, I took care of my mom for about 25 years after that. and and four of those years she was in a home because she had Alzheimer's at the end, right? Whatever. So, but it was amazing how she did end up staying with me, and I did end up taking care of her. And it was my father telling me, "You will be taking care of mom." It's like,
Yeah.
and I couldn't even fathom. So this is a man that passed away. Was it his soul talking to me? Did I see all that? To this day, I'm dumbfounded. And then that night I saw him, and then I saw him again one more time in a dream. And he doesn't. I don't dream much of my dad, and he gave me a special prayer to say. And I was saying that in the beginning. He says every time you say this prayer, it's one step, this one step higher, one level higher. So it's a special prayer he gave to me. And then I misplaced it, and I
What
found it
did he
again.
mean by that? Every time you say this prayer,
So
it's
he
one
says that
step higher to
to going closer to
to
heaven.
oh,
Yeah. So
okay.
yeah,
So
he
he's
says
teaching you that when you were a young woman and say this prayer and you're one step higher.
he actually gave me a booklet that was it's about an inch thick of all the prayers. See, he was
Oh,
very devoted. He was very faithful. He was devout. And it wasn't even about being a Roman Catholic because that's what he was, but he truly loved God. And to him, it was very special. He had a special relationship with God, right? And he says, it's called, oh, I forgot what it's called. I have the booklet. I just found the booklet actually 4 months ago. And I thought, oh, okay, Dad, you want me to say the prayers again, right? So I did start saying it.
right.
And then I stopped, but I need to start again. But it goes every time you say this prayer 3 times when you say it, and it's like saying a mass. It helps your the soul become more elevated. It's like the conversation we had before, where you go to a higher place, right?
Yeah,
So that was my father's passing away, which totally blew my mind. And then my mother came to live with me, and I ended up taking care of her, and nobody else. Nobody else took care of her
right.
but me. Yeah,
And you made a promise. Well, he asked you to look after her, and
he told
then
me. He didn't ask
yeah,
me because
he told you.
you will be taking
Well,
care of mom.
so he
And
predicted that. He
yeah, he
told
did.
you the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand it because I'm looking and I'm thinking, but she's in Italy. How do I take care of mom? And then he just left. I thought, like, what do you mean? Oh, yeah. Yeah. He told me.
So fast forward to your mum's passing, because I wanted you, Gina, you've got a really important experience to share, because I think a lot of people now with elderly parents, your dad was 62 and he had a wife with him and a lot of extended family around him, and he was relatively quite young and he had a lot of support. But a lot of people now are with elderly parents, 75, 80 plus, 90 plus, and a lot of times they're not in the same country, they're not in the same suburb or not able to be close. And with your mum, you had to make a decision as well at some time to put her into care because you could not physically look after her. But share with us that whole process where you were looking after your mum for 25 years, and then at some point um, you knew that you couldn't, and how you were, because that's part of the transition of when you've got an aging parent, you have to make some decisions sometimes, and that's really hard too, and you can blame yourself
Which I
about
did
that.
for a while. I
Yeah,
did
you
for a while.
did. I remember that. So
Um,
what happened with your mum as she was
so my
moving on?
mom started, when she first moved in with me, I mean, God bless her, she's a tough Sicilian woman, caused a lot of grief in my household. So throughout the time that she was with me, the 21 years that she was actually living in my home, my marriage ended up about 11 years later. My marriage ended because of her personality and everything else that was going on. And not just her, I mean, it was hard for people to be around her, you know? So um, it was just eventually just her and I. So I sold my home after my marriage ended, and it was just me, my mom, and my daughter, the three of us, right? And I bought a home where she had a walkout basement, so she could just walk in, and that was her area. So she had a little kitchen, a living area, a nice bedroom, home bathroom, and we were together. And then what happened is that she said to me at one point, "Goes, I don't like being down here. I want to be with you guys upstairs," because it was a raised bungalow, so there was stairs involved. So we moved her when Carmela married, because Carmela was with me. Once she got married and she moved out, her and her husband bought a home when she moved out. Carmela's bedroom became my mom's living area, and I had an extra room which was my office, and that became my mom's bedroom. So she had two rooms to herself upstairs, as you remember, right? And she used to watch her little soap operas, and she used to go to the club, and she had a pretty good life. After a few years she was with me, she was still depressed, and after 3 years she moved in with me. I says, Mom, this depression's got to stop. That's been gone for like 7 whatever years now, 8 years, and you got to really, you need to just go on with life. So I signed her up for bingo, and got she took off like, a social butterfly, and she was going to Cuba every year for 2 or 3 weeks with a group of people. So she was having a good life, but throughout the whole process she would always choke and choke. I find out moving forward that the choking was part of the people call it dementia. I just call it the brain starts breaking down. And so the way the Italian doctor explained it to me, I brought her to an Italian doctor for the elderly. So my family doctor says she needs to go and see this person. I says, why? Why does she have to go see this person? And I didn't see it, Angela, but she had already started forgetting things. So she know how much she was loved watching the soaps. She stopped
Yeah.
watching them. I said, well, why are you not watching them
Oh,
anymore?
that's
Ah,
right.
yeah, that's because she forgot how to put, because she used to put, we had DVD players back then. Now the HS, you put the tape in and the recording. We had to always set the thing up, and it always had to be set up. And in case of the electricity go away, I had to fix it all the time, which annoyed me because I kept forgetting how to fix the stupid thing. But when she stopped watching, I thought, like, why you stop watching it? She was, I don't want to watch anymore. I didn't realize that she was becoming forgetful. She never told me,
Mm,
and I didn't clue in because I was so busy with trying to work and trying to make payments, and because I was a single woman, right, with a house and all that. Um, I was in my own head about all the stuff that was going on in my personal life that I couldn't focus to see her, what was going on with her. I saw
right.
her, I saw her, but
That's
I
like,
didn't see her,
yeah. I think
which
that's a
is
lot of us. I think we get so caught up in the busyness of life,
we don't
and
see family
meanwhile,
members. Yeah,
yeah,
we
we
don't
don't
see it.
see it, the people we live with,
Yeah,
and especially when they're elderly, I think we're also in denial that we're gonna
yeah.
lose them. We're scared of losing
I
them.
never even thought about that. I mean, I saw her choking all the time, and I would say, "Well, stop!" I said, "Stop chewing so fast." I'm like, "What are you talking?" And because sometimes she would talk and chew, I said, "Well, you're gonna choke." But again, moving forward, I realized that that was just her brain, because what eventually killed her, the dementia part of it. I mean, she forgot who I was the last year of life, and she forgot that her two sons, like she always thought my boys are living so far away they can't come and see me, but she forgot that they didn't talk to her for 15 years of their life, right? She just forgave everybody and she loved everybody in the end. She became this little child that was so loving. You just wanted to snuggle up with her and kiss her all the time, right? Um, and so what happened is that she started falling. So when my daughter got married and left, it was just me and her. And she would do the cooking and the laundry. So she stopped cooking. I says, must be nice to get older. I says, lazy, right? You don't want to cook anymore.
Yeah.
She was forgetting. I didn't know that. I still didn't clue. She forgot how to use the microwave. One day there was a friend there. I had a friend that came to watch her to come have coffee with her, and she asked her to stay because she thought I'd be yelling at her that this cup burst in the microwave. I said, "But why would I yell at you, Mom?" I said, "But no, like again, I didn't clue in that she forgot how to use it. I just thought she's Italian. She forgot for a moment. I didn't think it was something more than that." And she thought that I would be yelling at her because she was becoming childlike, and I didn't realize that she thought I'd be doing this, right? And when I finally went to see the doctor, because the doctor saw what was going on, the family doctor, and he wanted me to see. So he booked the appointment, geriatric doctor, Italian guy, name was Giovanni, amazing man. And he goes, "We're going to test your mom to see if she's getting dementia." I said, "What do you mean test her?" He tests something like that. And he goes, he would ask her questions. He goes, "But you need to leave the room," because then she kept looking at me for answers, right? Like she'd saying,
Yes.
and when I came back in, he goes and he explained. He goes, the brain is like a whole bunch of lines going on. Like it's like a highway, different roads and different lines. He goes, and what happens when dementia starts happening is that these lines become rusty, and as they become rusty, the connection isn't there, so the connection
Okay.
gets lost. So the connection is what parts of the body. In my mom, the connection that they attacked was her throat. I didn't realize we have muscles in our throat, and when we chew, even if we're drinking water, when we're chewing or we're swallowing, the muscles help us to swallow the food. If we didn't have these muscles, because it happens to me sometimes now, like I'm concerned. I'm thinking, like, oh my God, I'm drinking water and I have to spit it out because it doesn't go down. Okay. So this is what's happening to her. I thought, no way. I didn't believe it. So, and then we had to do a whole bunch of things to prepare in case the brothers would attack. She goes, "I'm so afraid your brothers are going to attack you. They're going to want things from you, going to take away your house." Because she really had nothing. She sold the house and she gave everybody her money. It was just a pension that she had. So we had to get all that stuff ready, and we had to get a person come over. Anyways, moving forward, the doctor says you have to put her in a home. I says, and my mom fought me. I don't want to go. You have to take care of me. I says, I do want to take care of you, mom. I says, but I'm working. I says, and it's just me and you. I says, how am I going to manage to take care of you if I'm working? So I gave her the little thing on her neck that in case she fell, because she would fall, right? Just all of a sudden she'd just fall. And that way it was a kind of a mechanism that they have it here that if the thump happens, she could say help. And there's some point in the house was like a little machine that would go to the hospital and say, Senora, can I help you? What's going on? Um, so in case she would fall, the ambulance would come and they'd say, yes, I've fallen, I can't get up. And it was an Italian speaking woman. But after a year of wearing this, her mind wasn't working to the point that she didn't know what she was wearing this thing around her neck. She didn't know what it was. So I had to upgrade that to
Wow.
I had to upgrade that to something that just the impact somebody would call.
Oh, so
And
they
that,
have something that if you fall,
yeah, the
that will
impact
activate
activate.
alerts.
Yeah, and the alert would say, have you fallen? It would be the Italian speaking person. Have you fallen? Whatever. Then they would call me. One time it happened. I was just like around the corner, and thank God because I didn't tell them where the key was. I moved the key for the house, and they would have broken my door down right to get it to take her right. Um, so she was getting to the point, and then I was afraid that because we're living on the main floor, she wanted to do the laundry, and she could fall down the stairs. And oh my God, I can picture that. That was like I had to make a decision. The doctor says, Gina, you gotta take her. So it took me 3 months to research all the homes in the area, and so I found a place. And when I found that, I brought her, and she didn't want to come again, screaming like, "No, no way, I'm not going." I said, "But mom," I says, "you're not getting any better, and I need to take you. I don't want to." I said, "I don't want to do this." But the home that we brought her to, she liked it. She liked where we went. It was the
So
Italian
she was
speaking
kicking
people.
and screaming, and
Yeah,
then how long did it take her to go, "Oh, this is okay. I like it."
she liked
She
it because she knew that the doctors were putting pressure on me that I had to do this.
Oh,
And
okay.
she was willing to go because she liked when you first walk in, it was like a nice beautiful building, and there's a water fountain, and there's a cafe, and there's a little church, and there's and there's an area you can sit down, and there's chairs, and there's sofas, and there's birds, and then when you go into the actual rooms, you can see that there's nurses there, nurses station, whatever. And we thought we're going to get a room on the main floor. That's what they told us. It was right by the front doors. She wouldn't have to be part of the people that were sick, right? Because when you go in these places, like some people are okay, but some people are really sick, and
Yeah.
it's hard. It's hard. I mean, if you're going in there with feeling half sick, it eventually will kill you. The depression of watching this. I didn't know that. That's something else again I learned while I was taking care of her. So we went there, and they told me, okay, so she likes this area here. I said, yeah, it's fine. So she says, okay, the wait is going to be about 6 months to a year. And I thought, okay, I can prepare myself. That's enough time for me to prepare myself and to prepare her, right?
Who told you the 6 months to the year? The doctor, the geriatric doctor who
No,
gave
because
you
at this
that
point,
framework?
the geriatric doctor gave me a letter which I had to bring to the home that I was going to choose to bring her to. And there was another kind of governmental department for older people that you talk to, and you have to fill out forms. It was a process. It was a very it was a harsh process. It's not a fun thing to go to. I mean, it's nice if there's a family that can work on this together, but I was doing it on my own, and it was actually Teresa helped me through a little bit of that at the time. Um, but it was hard because I had to make the decision. I had to bring her there, and I thought, okay, so I had now. Once we finally found the home and we put the papers in, and it says, okay, we'll take her, and but there's a waiting list, and the waiting list is like this long. This is the home itself, right? And the people that are in charge of the forms are filled out, the government offices. I thought, okay, great, I can wait. I can wait 6 months to a year. At this point, Teresa had moved out. She didn't want to stay with us anymore. It was just me and her. So I thought, okay, I told her, I says, you don't go downstairs. I said, I do the laundry. Don't worry about nothing. You stay here and wait for me. Okay. Don't ever just stay on the main floor. And if we ever have to go anywhere, we'll go together. She goes, that's fine. So here I am, one day I'm at work. About 3 weeks later, maybe the most was 4 weeks. So I don't know. I get a phone call. I says, are you Miss Gina Barber? I said, yes. Well, and we're calling from this department, and there's actually a room available, and your mom needs, and you have to make a decision within 24 hours. This was Thursday. I said, what do you mean 24 hours? As you told me it was like 6 months to a year. No,
Yeah.
we need to, because, and if you don't take this room, then she's going to go back on the list, and we don't know how long that's going to take. That could be So it's either now
Wow,
or,
that is so intense, isn't it? It's
yeah,
like your hand is being
yeah.
forced,
You're for
and
well,
you've got
my
all
hand was
this.
being forced. My hand was
Yeah,
being forced. You're telling me 6 months to a year. You're giving me one place in my head where I'm gonna, okay,
to prepare
prepare,
psychologically,
right?
and then
And now here 3 weeks later, and it's like, we have 24 hours. So if you don't come, it's going to be given to somebody else, and you're going to have to start the whole process all over again. Which I thought, oh, do I want to start that process? The process wasn't fun to go through. Okay, especially if you're doing it on your own. It's nice to have someone to do it with, right? So I go home and I tell my mom, and I thought, now what? So I have to hurry up and pack all her things. And she was upset with me, and I don't want to go now. And then she was okay with waiting the time. She needed time, and I needed time. And I didn't know what to do, Angela. Anyways, we packed her up, we shipped her out. She cried. I dropped her off. I wasn't ready. And then they gave her a room upstairs on the second floor, which I thought, this is not the room you guys told me you're going to give her. I don't want this room. I want it to be on the main floor. Well, don't worry about it. Another one's going to come up. That one came up. Somebody else took it. I was like, and it was hard. And I told her, they can't come over and I'll visit you. And because where I used to work at that time, I was like 20 minutes away from her, 15 minutes. I said, I'll come after work. I'll come and see you, Mama. Don't worry about it. I'll be here on weekends. I'll be here evenings. And anyways, so we started. I started doing that. I would visit her maybe on weekends for sure, and sometimes 2 nights a week, right? Because it was hard. You work and you want to. And then I went home and my house was empty. Mom was gone, and I sat there thinking, now what? Everybody's gone. I'm all by myself, and what am I gonna do? And even though I had this person in my life, he chose that time not to talk to me for 2 weeks. I don't know why. And I felt like I didn't know what to do with myself. And I just, okay, take a deep breath, sit on the veranda in the front, read a book. I was trying to find peace within myself because now she's on her own, but she's got people around her, but I'm on my own. I have nobody around me. I'm completely alone.
interesting. Yeah.
And, and I miss her, and I feel bad, but I know that I had to do this for her. It was a tough choice, but I had to do it. I wish to God. And then I beat myself up for years, thinking I could have moved her on the main floor. I could have hired a woman to come over here and stay with her instead of me putting her there. And I thought, man, why didn't I do that? I could have kept my house. And my thoughts going on. Like, I mean, she was there for 4 years. So for years, even after she passed away, I thought, I finally came to terms with it. She's been dead 5 years. In a week, it's going to be 5 years. I finally came to terms with it after. I thought, well, it's a decision I made. I can't change it. I did the best that I did at the time with what I had, right? Um, and so she got used to it, Like, afterwards, when the room came available on the first floor, and I showed her, she goes, "No, no, no, I want to be upstairs. I want to be upstairs." I thought, okay.
She wanted to stay.
What
Isn't
happens
that
is that,
strange?
yeah, what happens is that, so she got make friends, and
Okay.
slowly. It took time. I thought it would take longer, though, like about say maybe a couple of months or something. And the room was available about 2 or 3 months later on the main floor. And I would prefer her to be on the main floor. But the thing is, on the main floor, the room was further down in the hallway, so she'd have to
Uh-huh.
walk. But the room that she had on the
Further up.
second floor was right by the area
The
with the
elevator.
lounge area, yeah, the elevator, the lounge area, and the nurse's station was all there. And she was right across the dining hall, so she had a perfect room on the second floor, right? And the good thing
Where was
was
she
that
across from?
the
She was
dining
right
area.
across.
There's a dining area.
Oh,
So there's a
so she
dining
was in the
area.
heart of the action.
She
She's an
was a,
action lady. She's one of those women that need to be in the middle of everything.
and that's the
Great.
room that she got, and it worked for her. Um, and then for the first year and a half, I would go pick her up, and which was hard for me because I had to go pick her up. She was like literally 30 minutes away from where I lived. I would go pick her up, and then I would get her dressed. I would take her to see maybe Johnny, no, my grandchildren play soccer, or take her to Carmela's house. And after I did that about 4 or 5 times, she goes, Gina, she goes, that's too hard for me. I get tired easily because then the body started getting weaker, right? And then she had problems with the swallowing, and I had to send, and they were giving her food that was pureed, and she would just throw it on the ground. She'd take the dish and throw it on the ground. And she was typical Sicilian, right? And the nurses got mad at me and says, no, she doesn't eat anything, this and that. So I started buying her the boost to bring it there in the part of the room. So I said, can you please give her one at least with a meal, right? And the swallowing got worse and swallowing got worse. And she started losing she lost her teeth. She lost. And then I brought her to see a specialist. So I had to go pick her up, take a chair, bring her to the specialist. It was everything I did was so hard because she was not strong. She couldn't walk. And it was like it would take me hours to take her and take her and but the specialist went to see, cost me at the time quite a bit of money. And I said to her, I says, can we not remove the she had only four teeth left in her mouth and they had rotted because she lost her teeth very young in her life. And I says, can we not remove these? And she goes, Gina, I don't advise. She goes, giving her false teeth again because she'll lose them again, right? She doesn't, she'll take them out of her mouth because they bother her and she'll put them in her pocket and whatever. And she goes, and to remove these, I would have to put her to sleep. She goes, there's a 50-50
No.
chance she may not survive the operation. She goes, just leave her alone. She's like, she's 87. Just leave it be, or 88. Like, I said, okay. And I said to her, I don't understand what's wrong with her throat. And then she explained it to me, not the doctors. She goes, Alzheimer's, what it does is affects the brain. And the way the first doctor explained it, that it the brain starts like the lines, the connections, they don't talk to each other anymore because they get rusty. Like, right? You know, when something rusts? She goes, so what happens sometimes it will attack the throat muscles. And that's what happened with your mom. She goes, and she's eventually not going to be able to swallow anything. And I mean, this is a woman that weighed 140, 45 pounds when she went in, and she died. She was like 95 pounds. She was just skin and bones. I mean, it was pretty bad. Yeah, so her death was, she died on a Sunday. The last month of her life, month and a half, she had to be in a wheelchair because she had no longer the strength to walk anymore because she couldn't even swallow the boost at the end. I had hired a lady that would go and sit with her for a few of the meals, at least to make sure she'd swallow something, right? And I didn't want to put any intravenous on her because I know she'd be just pulling it out and causing a lot of pain on her body, her
Yeah.
physical body. Um, I was on Sunday, I went to church and I went to the front of the church and I got on my knees and said, Lord, heal her or take her, please. She was 89 at this point, and I couldn't see that pain anymore. I mean, I go visit her, and I would say to her, I says, and who am I? She'd go, oh, she didn't know me, but she loved me. She knew that she loved me, right?
She
Um,
used to say to you something, Gina. She used to say, what was the words? She'd say
look,
to you,
this is a week before she died. Because I would always go visit her, and I would pray with her, and hug her, and kiss her, and she would see me, and her face would light up, but she didn't know who I was. But I would ask her, so who am I?
who
And
am I?
this is the week before she died, and she goes, Bo. And then she actually reached out and touched my hand, and she looked in my eyes, and she goes, non so chi sei, però so che ti ho sempre amata. I don't know who you are, but I know that I've always loved you. It's like, oh my God, shit. It was just, she didn't know who I was, but she knew she's always loved me. Her whole life, she loved me. And she knew that because, so again, Jesus talking about love, right? That's a deep love, a heart love. Like, I don't know who you are. I don't know your face anymore, but I know that
I don't, that I
I
love you.
know right here, right? And it's like, oh, that's like, and and that was Sunday on my way to the after I prayed God to please, help her on my way to the home because I would go to church and I would go visit her. I got a phone call saying, your mom had a good breakfast this morning. I said, what? Really? How did I know that? She said, we don't know. And then we got her dressed up and I bought her a really nice red sweater, a nice pair of pants. And they put her in the room and we went to bring her coffee because they would give breakfast about around 8 o'clock. And then on 10:30, they would bring like a coffee and cookie, whatever you wanted. And she was sleeping and we kind of touched her and she kind of shook her head, whatever, but then she went back to sleep again. So we think you better get over here. But by the time I got there, she had already passed. And they put her on the bed, and she was beautiful. I mean, they put something to keep her mouth closed because and I called all my kids over, and that same day, within 2 hours, we cleaned out the room, and I had already all the arrangements made, and and that night I go home, and I'm thinking like, oh my God, like like here I am. I prayed for her to have some kind of deliverance, and she finally did. But she did tell me the last year and a half, 2 years, that in the nighttime she would see Jesus sitting with her and talking to her.
So that's the last 2 years because Dr. Peter Fenwick talks about that in his work. He's done
Okay.
thousands of people,
Hmm.
and it's something around 2 years before they pass.
Yeah.
There's a knowing that they're going to die,
Yeah.
and these visitations from the other side or from spiritual people they connect to, members of the family who've passed,
Her
they
mom.
start to
Yeah.
have conversations
Yeah. She
lots
would
of
ask me,
conversations.
she goes, why doesn't my mommy come to visit me? And so at first I would say, well, your mom is dead. Like, she's been dead. I don't even know my grandmother. And she would go, like, her eyes would become like a little child. She goes, oh, when did she die? Why didn't you tell me? I just, oh my God, that's not the conversation I should be having with her, right? So I would just say, no, no, your mommy loves you very much, but she's so far away and a trip over here. She's not well right now. But then she would tell me, because you know who came to visit me last night? My mommy was here. She sat with me and we talked. So she had visitations from her mother and from Jesus. Yeah, that she
Yeah.
told me about. Anything else, I don't know. But the day that she died, so I went home that night and I thought, like, I was like, I guess, I mean, no matter how much you prepare for death, because I knew she was dying, right? It still hits you. It still hits you. It wasn't like my father was a ton of bricks and I went through severe depression after he died for 2 years. I put on 50 pounds. I couldn't even cry for him because I was told by my brothers and my husband, you can't cry. What are you crying for? What's wrong with you? Like, I wasn't allowed to grieve my father's death and it tore me apart. And with her, I was on my own. I was alone. I was actually was I living with Teresa at the time? I think so. Um, my brothers hadn't talked to me for years, my mom for a year, 15 years. And I was having this funeral and I prepared for everybody who's showing up. And if they didn't show up, I still have two limos. I would have all my grandkids going in limos to the cemetery. But I go home and I go to sleep. And all of a sudden in my sleep, I see my mom dressed in, it was a French, she was going to a ball. I was, it was the French era, I think 1400s. They had those really fancy dresses, those big poofy ones with those things at the bottom, and the fancy hairdos and
Hair,
the
yeah,
mask and all the poofy stuff. And she was wearing green and purple, and her hair was like a light, like it wasn't dark, it wasn't a blonde, but it was like a light brunette with almost hints of blondes in it. And she had this beautiful mask on her face, and I'm seeing her. I'm dressed normal, and I'm in this place in in the 1400s, and there's this friend in France. I don't know why. I don't know why France. And she's taking it. She's running and she's walking, and I'm looking at her. She looks at me, and she keeps walking and walking. And I says, "Ma," and she wouldn't stop. She walks faster. I run up to her. I says, "But Ma." She goes, "You know who I am?" I said, "Of course I know who you are. I took care of you for 25 years." Didn't look like her. It didn't. It's almost like she had become this beautiful young woman. It didn't look like the woman, right? She became this. And she goes, "You know who I am?" I says, "Yes." She probably thought I wouldn't recognize her. I said, "Yeah, you're my mother. I recognize you anywhere." I says, "What are you doing?" She goes, "I'm going to go dancing." I was like, "Really?" "Yes. I finally get to dance with my husband. It's been too long." That's it.
yeah.
I never dreamt of her again. I mean, sometimes maybe, I don't. That was like vivid, the colors, the mask, the face. And she was like, so like, oh my God. She was gorgeous. And I was happy to go see her honey. She hadn't seen it because my father was 62. She was in her early 50s when he died. She died at 89. She was
So she was
without,
alive for like 40, almost not quite 40 years without
yeah,
him
without
and
him.
living in that memory of their time together.
They used to love
Yeah.
dancing, going to the movies. They used to love
Ah,
dancing. They used to like going to the beach together. Like they did lots of things together. Like I mean, they had their moments, right? Like all couples do. But they used to love doing things together. But dancing, my father was a beautiful dancer, and she loved dancing too. So, um, yeah. So the first thing was she's dancing with them. It's like, oh wow, that was nice. My mommy.
and how would you say that you've discovered through death a different dimension of love or a different understanding of it through their passing?
I I've always believed in God and Jesus, and believed in heaven and hell. Like I was raised Roman Catholic, but I've questioned always my religion because I thought this doesn't make a lot of things didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
I
A lot of
want
things don't make sense.
a lot of things don't make sense, right? So, but to see my father, his mom coming down, and he said to me, "I'm going to a good place." I thought, wow, it does exist. There is a heaven, because he's going to a good place. He told me he's going to a good place. And then he came back those few days to make sure his wife would be okay and to take care of me while while all that was happening. I could feel his presence. He was around for about 3 days, anyways, because once we had his funeral and my mom was busy taking care of Carmela and the people came and left. I was just getting the documents ready for him to leave, from the body to go, right? everything had calmed down a bit, so he wasn't around anymore. But those 3 days, like the resurrection, he stayed with us for 3 days, and
The 3 days.
yeah, my mom, she was ready to go. When she left, she left. She left and she went dancing. And that just gave me like another thing I don't know if I ever explained. My mother-in-law, my first husband's wife, mother, she she did things that were very hurtful to me. Um, and she not only me, a lot of her daughter-in-laws, but to me, I treated her like a mother. I cooked with her, I cleaned with her, I baked cookies with her. I used to call her mom. To me, she was like a mom. And when whatever she did to me hurt me so deep, I stopped talking to her. And she eventually realized 2 years afterwards that she had made a mistake and she was trying to connect with me. And she finally connected with me and she apologized for what she did. She literally said to me, goes, no, she goes, you were a good wife to my son. She goes, I'm so sorry, G. I'm so sorry. Right. And I forgave her because how can you not forgive, right? And she was not doing well. And I says, you know what, Mom, I was living outside in Brampton at the time. I said, I'm moving back to Etobicoke. And when we're building a house, Art and I says, I'm going to come and pick you up and we're going to go have a coffee together and this and that. And by the time I moved back, she passed away. And
Oh my.
the day she passed away, I dreamt of her that night. And I dreamt of the major fights that was going to happen. Like her house was upside down, the stairs were in and out, and her children, she had 10 kids or whatever, whatever kids she had, I don't know, 8 or 9 or 10 in Canada. She's got two in Italy and 10 here. Um, there was one daughter that was taking care of her, like I took care of my mom, and she promised her a little bit more money, like an extra $10,000. She goes, when I die, this is for you to help you because I know you've been good to me. This daughter was really good to her. And then a couple of her brothers took her to a lawyer and changed the documents. She couldn't read and she couldn't write. So they told her something and they made her sign with an X, but she didn't know what she did. But in death, in the moment that she died, I guess the realization of it, and she came to me and she said to me, I did something. And I said, in that moment, I woke up. The phone rang. It was my son. Mom, Nana's dead. It's like, oh my God. She came to me. She told me, I've gone and I did something, Gina. I did something bad. And she came to me and she told me. And
Do
then
you think do you think she came to you because she had already said I'm sorry to you and she knew that your heart was open to her and that you would understand or be able to.
she came to me because we had an understanding. I mean, I've always loved her like a mom. I respect old people. To me, they're like special. Like, I mean, even Eileen, to me, she's like a mom. You know, like she loves me like a mom. I love her the same way, right? So there's a special place I have in my heart for elderly people, even babies. And I think that maybe she knew that, right? Or maybe she knew that I would be open to it because I'm not one of her kids. Because the kids got involved in a war. There was a war going on now because the one daughter got offended. She got a lawyer. She's suing everybody. There was a lot of stuff that
Oh,
happened, right? There's a lot of stuff that happened, and all through that process, she called me. I'm sleeping and I'm getting and I'm in my sleep. I'm on my bike. I'm riding a bike. I'm going to visit my brother-in-law that passed away. Her son, oldest one, right? And then my cell phone rings, and I pick up my phone. I stop the bike. I pick up the phone, and she goes, "Gene," and I says, "I'm looking at my phone. I thought, you're dead." So I hang up. It was her. She was calling me in my dream on my
oh,
phone, right?
oh,
And I'm looking at the
okay.
phone. I thought this is a prank call. Somebody that's pretending to be her. I get back on my bike. I
Oh,
pedal, and then the phone rang again. And I said, hello. She goes, Gina. It's just the way she said it. She's the only person said it, and she goes, go G, like like I says, hello. I said, but who are you? And she goes, Ma, no, don't hang up the phone. Don't be stupid. It's me. I said, but Ma,
uh-huh.
you're dead. Why are you calling me on my phone? Just
Okay.
the whole thing was like, she goes, I'm calling you because I need you to do me a favor. This is her telling me. So this is not a
Yeah.
woman that's in heaven. She's not in heaven because she did things that were not nice when she was alive. And this is her, I guess
Okay.
we talk about purgatory, right? She probably
Yeah.
felt bad, so she had to. I guess I don't know. I often wonder if there's a purgatory. I don't know. She wasn't a place. She even another dream. She came to me and she showed me the house that she was
But
living
this
in.
was she's calling you in your dream in the 3 days after her passing?
No, this
Is
is a
that
few months
a
after.
few months? Okay.
Yeah, and she's
And so
telling
she
me,
was still communicating to
yes,
try and get your attention to
yeah.
do what for to do
She
what?
goes, please tell Carmina, tell my son Carmina to talk to the daughter and to make peace. Please, G.
To make
Please,
peace.
yes, please. As I says, Ma, I'll do my best. But I don't think anybody's listening right now. She goes, please, G. It's okay. And I
Yeah.
did. I went to talk to him and I says, your mother came to me in a dream and she said this.
Oh my God, that's
And
perfect. Yeah.
and he goes, well, I'm not doing nothing. I said, I'm just passing on a message. I said, she came to me.
That's exactly it. And this is connecting to what I had said about, which I didn't understand. Why am I talking about the message of the resurrection? But you
That's
were
the
just the
message.
messenger. You had to pass on the message. You didn't need
I
to do
passed on the
anything
message.
else.
I promised her I would. Another dream she came to me. This is so. This message came, an, a dream that came to me a month or 2 months after, because this was like 3 or 4 months later, because the court case was happening and the family was not loving each other. They were hating each other. So she wanted peace, because I think it was affecting her from the other place, right? She saw this
Of
and she knew
course.
she caused it, but she didn't mean to cause it, or maybe she did. I don't know, right? But because of all this pain that she had been caused me. She could have done things differently in life when she was alive, but I forgave her. So one night I will go to sleep, and in my dream I'm going to visit my mother-in-law. And she's got this beautiful little bungalow. It's a two-bedroom bungalow, and she loved the garden. She was a farmer and nearly had like many fields, And I go visit her, and I says, ah. She goes, ma. She goes, oh. She goes, grazie, G. Thank you for coming. In Italian, right? She spoke Italian. I says, ah. I says, Ma, oh, this is such a nice house. And I walk in, and there's sunshine in the living room, and everything was nice. And then we're walking towards the part of the house, and it was dark. I said, but
Oh wow.
I said, why
Okay.
would you buy a house that's dark? I says,
Yeah.
you like flowers, and you like this, and you like that. She goes, Gee, this is what I could get.
That's all she could get with the life that she had created here on earth.
Yes, she
Okay.
had she had some light, but she had darkness.
And her attitude was it like acceptance? This is what I created on earth, or was it
She had a sad. It was
sadness?
sad. It was sadness.
Sadness. So she was still sad on the other
She
side.
was
She was
sad,
sad.
and she was sad when she called me about on the phone on my cell phone.
So can you give us a quick summary then of what happened with the conflict? So you delivered the message, your mother wants you to
Make
make
peace.
peace, and
The
the
east.
kids continue with the legal conflict and the fighting. And then what happens? You have another dream, and she shows you the bungalow. A part of it's dark, and she's sad, but
Yeah.
she's in
Then
awareness of
yeah.
what she
What
created in
happened? She
her
created,
life.
and now she's got to live in this
And the kids
darkness.
are still fighting, and they
So
don't.
when Carmina died, and I went to church,
Oh,
right?
Carmina, though, just
He's the
died
oldest.
this
Yeah,
year.
he in
And this is
February.
how
Yeah.
many years after his mum died?
Oh, she must have been dead. I was still married to Art, so she must have died. I don't know. I mean, 20 years ago. 20. I don't know. It's been a while. It's been a while.
And
Um,
so 20 years later, her son dies just this year.
I go to
And
church, and the sister's there, Maria, the one that sued everybody because she was wronged. And he
right.
tried to make peace with her. He tried and tried, and she would never talk to him. I didn't know that. I found out afterwards because then I went to visit Carmina's wife a couple of weeks later. After church, I went in and said hi. And she said to me, she goes, why would she come to church? She never spoke to him. I thought, oh.
He never made the vocal piece, and they never made peace.
And if I know
Yeah.
Carmina, he probably phoned her, and she just never made peace with him. And I'm thinking, if only people know what we have ahead of us. I mean, forgiving is not, it's not hard because it's not up to us to judge. We're not judges, right? Jesus came, so I mean, he came to teach us love. And he says we need to forgive each other no matter what happens with each other. No matter, my brother hates me right now. Both of them do. I don't hate them. I feel sorry for them. I feel sometimes I wonder why, but I realize that maybe they're mentally not in the right place. I don't know what it is, but I've forgiven them. And I pray for them because I know that what they have to face one day when they meet their maker, when they pass away, is not a place I want to be. And I hope and pray for them that they understand that this is just a small sampling. We have eternity afterwards, right?
Yeah.
The resurrection, Jesus came. Why did he come? To teach us about love, to help each other out. And he came because to teach us that, what the Ten Commandments he gave to Moses. Yes, these are things you have to follow. Like, you don't kill, you don't this, honor your parents. These are important. But the most important one of all is to love your Father, Heavenly Father, and to love each other. To love each other,
Yeah.
right? And then he says, and I'm willing to show you how much I love you by dying. But I'm gonna feel the pain of death because I want to cleanse you of that original sin that Adam and Eve did. Instead of you killing the lambs, I will be the lamb that's going to be sacrificed for that. But I'm doing it with love. And when I'm dead, I will go under for 3 days, and on the third day I'm going to rise. And going under, he actually went to Hades. He took the key of death, and he told the evil person down there, "I'm in charge of death now, not you. I will be the one who's going to make the last decision of resurrection, not just for me, but for everybody, for my family, my children." And then he resurrected, because that's he's telling everybody, this is what I'm going to go to, that place. I'm going to go to my Father's home and make a place for you. So he's telling us, I've done this, and I'm happy. I went through a little bit of pain, but I did that because I love you. But now I'm giving you a chance to also be in a place in my home with my Father. And when I see these things, and my mom dancing and my father, like, it's like, yeah, I get it. There was a time when, after my father died, 2 years later, I mean, a year, I don't know, a year later, 2 years later, I was in my home, still married to my husband. Carmela must have been a little baby. She must have been two. Paulo, my little guy, was maybe 5 or 6. And one night he came to me because he had a really, really high fever, and he was rubbing my hand gently. He wasn't screaming and yelling. He came to me, he goes, and, and in that moment, it's almost like I was caught in a glimpse of two worlds, two hemispheres, because he slowly tried to wake me up, my son. The 6-year-old little boy was so concerned about screaming, or maybe he was so sick he couldn't have the, I don't know what it was. He was rubbing my hand and saying, "Mommy." And in that moment, it's like my mind awakened a little bit, but I was walking on a beach with my father. My father had died 2 years before,
Uh-huh.
and he had a suit on, the suit that he was buried in, nice shoes, the whole suit. And I was walking, and I could smell flowers all around me, and the sun was beautiful and bright, but it wasn't blinding, and I could smell and I could feel the ocean. I was walking barefoot. I had this beautiful, dress on that I was just gonna swaying with my dress. I had a sundress on. I felt the sun, but the sun was God because I felt the presence in every pore of my body. And I'm walking with him on
Mm.
this beach, and I'm saying, "But Daddy, I don't want to leave you. I want to talk with you some more." He was in heaven. He goes, "Gina, go. Your son is sick. You go take care of him. You and I talk all the time." And then I slowly
Oh.
awakened from that. And that peace that I felt in that split second,
Uh-huh.
that God gave me that gift, that miracle, in that split second, the peace I felt in being in heaven with my Father, walking on the beach, like, smelling this beautiful essence of flowers, and seeing this beautiful sun that wasn't, I could look at the sun, but it wasn't blinding, but I knew it was God, and He was all going through me and all around me, and talking to my daddy. I wasn't like in my best place. I took that peace. It came with me in this life, and that peace stayed with me for 3 months. No matter what anybody did to me, I was never getting angry. I was just at peace. This is the
Wow.
peace. This is the peace we're going to. This is heaven. This is the promise that Jesus made to us, to live in a place where there's no pain, there's no death. This is why He resurrected. He died for us, to give us, gift to us. That's amazing. I've forgotten about that. See, this is awful. Oh my God.
Yeah, so it wasn't just a dream, Gina, it
No.
was actually an experience, and
Yes.
you were going to the other dimension,
Yes.
and even your young child at the time
I was sleeping,
knew
right?
there was something going on and could just touch you lightly because there was
Very
this
lightly.
presence.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And for a glimpse, I had a glimpse of heaven. And my daddy goes, "That's okay, Gina, go. Your son needs you. He's sick. You take care of him. You and I talk all the time."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I mentioned last time when I found out that I could talk to my parents any second of the day. And actually, for me, I am my parents. So I hear my parents when I do my crazy talk, like, "What's this? What's this going on here?" That's my parents. So I hear them all the time now. It's actually a little bit annoying, but it's funny at the same time. And yeah, when I found out I could talk to them after they died, that's when I got this other sense of love that we don't actually die, or my parents can't die because I am my parents and they are in me. And I think at the beginning when I was younger, when I first had that, I was 30 or something like that, 28. It was after dad died when I was 29. So it was around 30. I had an experience of that. And then it was more surface. And then over the decades, it's gone deeper, that connection to them. And I can hear them at any second, or I can think of them. And that's beautiful how your dad described it. You talk to me all the time. So he's hearing you and you're talking to him
I'm talking
whenever
to him.
you're
Yeah.
doing anything.
I just wish I could be more conscious of it, right? Because I mean that moment, like it was literally like a split second on this earth time, but wherever I was, it felt like I was there for like 5 or 10 minutes walking with them and just swaying my dress and feeling God's presence. It was just, and then the peace, and the peace. Jesus said, "Peace be with you. I leave my peace with you." That peace. This is what we
Mm.
don't feel on earth. This is the hell we're living on.
Yes, I wanted to finish with more on the message of the resurrection and finding love through death of our loved ones and our parents in particular, um, and the death of Jesus on the cross. It's a symbol that has meaning for a lot of people on earth at this time, but it doesn't have meaning for some people. But it's a strong symbol. I think even if you don't follow the Christian faith, the idea of having a crucifixion as a message, it's pretty full on. And I feel like the message of the resurrection is, unfortunately, through the Christian teachings, it's sort of lost on us because it's more like you were just sharing about that feeling of your dad being with you in that other world. He's with you here, but so much of our lives we get lost. We get lost in not remembering what's important, or we get busy, or we get fixated on whether we're going to call the grandchild after the grandmother, and we forget the real
Meaning,
purpose,
the purpose
meaning.
of what? Yes, yes.
Yeah.
The purpose of taking care of our parents when they get old. I mean, that is one of my fears, Angela. I'm 63 years old and I'm thinking, like, what if something happens to me? My kids won't take care of me.
My parents said that too. They said it to us every day, actually, when we grew up, which was very clever of them, I must say. They said, "When we get old, you're not going to look after us." And that stuck with me and it worked because I wanted to prove them wrong. So just do reverse psychology. It's like,
I can't tell that to my, well, I do talk about it because I've had moments where I felt very weak and I feel like I need, so this is the way I feel. I took care of my mom at a high price. A lot of things I
two
had to give up.
marriages. Yeah.
Yes, well, one marriage, a person that truly loved me and would have done anything for me. And I feel always lost. I feel sometimes I'm not, whatever. Um, but if I were to go back, would I do it again? For sure. But that's a sacrifice that people today are not willing to make. They're not willing to make that, and maybe they do it for, and maybe it's just me. It's not everybody because I see that my daughter-in-laws they would do that for their mothers, right?
They do
Um,
do it. That
they would,
they would.
yeah, they would. Um, it's not even a question. It's done. But yet I don't have that commitment, and I'm thinking like, did I do something wrong in raising my kids? And this is why even more so my faith, God, Jesus, is important to me because I know no matter what, we don't know what tomorrow brings us. I don't know what tomorrow brings us. None of us do. I mean, look at this war that's happening. Did the Ukraine people deserve that? No. Did Putin want to do that? Yes. There's a lot of things in this world. There's a lot of cruelty and there's evil, but there's also love and there's also good things. There's good and bad, right? But can we say, yes, this is going to happen tomorrow? My goal was to get married, have my family, have my kids come over every Sunday with their children, and we have Sunday meals together. I didn't have that wish come true. You know, the only thing I know is real. Jesus died for me on that cross, and I will make it personal because not everybody
Yeah.
believes, but I believe He died for me. He made me worthy. My children may not think I'm worthy, or maybe they do. I don't know. I don't know in their minds because sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. But I know they love me. But He died for me, and He said, "I'm going to die for you because you are special, and because I want you one day to join me in my home, my Father's home in heaven." And you will have peace. The peace I felt that day with my father when I was walking on that beach.
Right.
The peace I felt when I saw my mom going all dressed up, going dancing with my dad. And I want to have that peace. And not the peace, not the sorrow that my mother in law felt because she knew she did some things that were not right and she was living in half light and half darkness. She still felt the pain of what her kids were doing because something that was caused. That's sorrow. I prayed for her. I prayed for her because I thought, you know what? When Jesus died on the cross, what did he say? Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. We don't know what we're doing. Right?
Right.
And then he turned around to the person on one side that was a thief. He goes, "You will be with me today, my father. You'll be with me in heaven today. At the end of the day." And the other one not. Maybe the thief had to steal money, had to steal food to feed his family, but the other guy
Yeah.
killed somebody. That was evil. That's cruelty. If we were to look at that and say, okay, so if I'm going to do something bad, I'm going to hurt you on purpose. I'm going to cause you grief. I'm going to do I did, what was done to me, what was done to people that I know. If they only knew, and these people know that there's a God, but they don't care. Because the importance of what's important today, look at Putin. Putin. He's killing people. You don't think he knows that there's a God? Everybody knows there's a God. People choose not to believe sometimes, I think, because it makes their decisions easier. Some people
Yeah.
choose not to believe because, like, I'm going to kill you, but nah, there's no God. Who cares? I'm going to kill you anyways. I feel sorry for those people because not only do you have the cruelty, the harshness in your heart, but then one day you will be judged. And I don't want to have that judgment on me. So, yeah,
But I think a lot of the time the difficulty is that we don't know what their role is and we're judging them from our human perception
we're not perfect,
because,
right? Yeah.
well, we're also, that's the perception we have.
Mm-hmm.
I've got this life, so I can look at that person's life only from that framework.
Right.
And if we were dead, or like your father, he's up there and you're with him in that space, it's a completely different dimension of reality that doesn't exist here until we have those experiences like you had with your dad and the sunshine pouring
God.
through every
God.
cell.
Was
It's just you're in a completely different reality. It's not
Yeah.
this reality here where we are in war and we are in conflict every second, and we
Yeah.
do spend 20 years in a fight. I grew up with Italians that would hold grudges for generations as well.
Generations. Yeah.
And then you get to the next generation after 3 or 4 cycles, and they didn't know what the original fight was about, but they still
Right.
didn't like each other.
Go figure.
Right. So for us to judge someone, it's impossible because we don't know what the original hurt was that created the
Yes.
fight.
Yeah.
Example, in Europe right now, in Russia and Ukraine, we can't judge it because we don't know the hurt that created that original conflict. We know that it's not right to be killing people. Yeah, that's because we're humans and we know this body is flesh. And like Jesus was saying on the cross, forgive them because they don't know what they're doing. We only know what this flesh is, and we know that
Right.
it's wrong to take human life, but we don't understand the conflict that
Right.
creates all of this conflict in our world right now or within our families. So I wanted to get that message of the resurrection because sometimes I think in the church they explain the resurrection in a way that doesn't sound right to me, where it's like after 3 days, Jesus is on the cross, he's hanging out there. I don't want to say it like that, that's so Australian. He's hanging out there going, I didn't know about this death thing. This is pretty horrible."
He's actually feeling a lot of pain, and
pain
they're giving him vinegar and they're putting it in his wounds.
to make
They've
the
beaten him.
pain even
They
worse.
hit him
Yeah.
actually. They hit him 39 times, and this was explained when I went. The pastor explained this when I went to for a Good Friday, that they with a whip 39 times, because to do it 40 times would have killed him. So they put him on the edge of death, and they kept him alive. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
not cool.
Maya's just saying hanging out.
Hi.
Sorry about that. I feel terrible to make it so Australian comedy. Um, and then he's at this point where he's facing his own flesh and not being able to cope with it and
No.
like
And he's telling
getting
his father,
he's can I get away?
please, can
What
you
is it?
take me? I'm tired of what
Can
does he say? The words.
I forgot the rescue.
Don't for,
Can I
oh,
what is it in The
forsake
Millionaire?
me.
Yeah, forgot yeah, whatever the language is. He's like, "Can I get a quick ticket out of here?" And that's the point where he's got to come back and say, "No, I'm gonna go through this death." And you compared it to giving birth, Gina. Like, when a child's coming into the world, it ain't
It's
pretty either.
painful. Oh, it's
It's
painful.
extremely painful for the
Yeah,
child and the mother.
and the mother, both. Yeah, um, because so people look at the crucifixion as, is it real? Is it not real? And and why did he have to endure that pain? He did that because he loved us. So when a woman, when we get pregnant, we know it's gonna. We don't know to the extent we're gonna be sick. I mean, I was sick the whole 9 months, throwing up. Oh my God, it was pretty bad. And then giving birth was for me not a long process. Where my daughter, with her first son, she was almost 24 hours, and and they were going to eventually take the baby because he was so big that he was having a hard time coming out, and she was sick, and and it kind of did damage to one of his shoulders because of it. He was almost 10 pounds, right?
Oh, I forgot about his shoulder, yeah.
Yeah. So she was 24 hours, and I went there to help her, and I had to leave the room because I was passing out from seeing her going through the pain. It's like, oh my God, this is the pain that Jesus endured for us. He knew he had to go through that. On Good Friday, he went and he prayed to his father at Gethsemane at that, and that, with and he brought some of the apostles with him to help him pray, but they fell asleep because they were tired. Because they're human, they don't understand what's going on. They don't know what he's going. But he had to go there and he had to pray, ask Father, please take this cup away from me. But if it is your will, it's it's your will, not mine. So he wanted it. He knew the pain he had to endure. He knew the reason why, and he was afraid to step into it. So he wanted to hurry up and get it done, right? And then to carry the cross, and I mean that's a heavy piece. Of, like after you've been whipped 39 times and you've been bitten and punched and put a cross, thorns on your head and spit on, now you have to carry this heavy weight up the mountain, and then they're going to put nails in you, and then they're going to lift you up, and you're going to hang there, and just the pressure of the nails in your it was actually in the wrists, the pressure of that tearing away, hanging there, and he finally looked up and says, please, have you not forgiven me? It's something like, it's like, please take,
Forsaken,
have you,
Father, have
yeah,
you forsaken
forsaken me?
just left me here to experience this
Please.
awful.
Like, so if he couldn't handle the pain, can you imagine what we deal with every day of our lives?
I'm just sort of seeing the comparison of the childbirth to this process of letting go of the body and being in
Yes.
such pain, which is not just physical, but it's psychological pain and all the pain of all the awful things that people have done to you, like you're explaining with your ex-mother in law whose children were fighting,
Yeah.
all those hurts that we give to each other unconsciously. It's not like her kids were meaning to hurt each other, but they were hurt because they
Some of
had
them were.
different
Yeah.
some of the well, okay, yeah, they're Italian. um, and as a child in childbirth and a mother giving birth, we don't have any control, and we're not, as a baby, we're not even having consciousness that thinks about this. We're just going through this terrible small hole to come
Trying
into
to,
this
yeah.
this
Yes.
life. But as
Yeah.
we leave this body, we've come with all of these stories and all these hurts and all these perceptions of life being awful or painful. And how are we going to resolve that before we leave the physical body. And that's what the death of Jesus symbolizes. It's pretty gruesome,
Yeah.
but it's what we are in this body. We're full of perceptions of how awful things are,
Yeah.
and we're at the end of this life going, how am I going to finish? Am I going to die and resolve that? And unless we come to some resolution in that last moment, like Jesus, when he says, Father, have you forsaken me? And he's struggling with it, that's him representing for us that point before you die. You have to resolve you have to resolve some things. And whatever you don't resolve, you're going to bring it into the afterlife and have some resolution there.
But also,
And
have you forsaken me? It's Jesus feeling the pain as in his human body, um, because he knows after the death he's going to be eventually resurrected and go to a better place, the place where he left before he came here, right? So he knows that. He knows where he's going, but in this moment, the pain of it all, he cannot endure anymore. So that's just, you were saying something that kind of, sorry, go ahead. I just had to, yeah.
yeah, like the pain of it all when the Father, have you forsaken me? And he has
But he
to
couldn't,
resolve,
the only way to
accept
resolve it is to die in that moment because he couldn't handle the
it's to
pain anymore,
die.
right? I
Yeah,
mean, sometimes you cannot resolve what you're going through. So in my own family, there's people that have issues, mental issues, and everybody around them wants them to resolve this, but they cannot be resolved because they don't
they
know,
can't.
they don't understand. They know in that moment they're conscious enough that they want to cause pain to somebody else, so much pain that it would almost death, but to understand, and this person has studied the Bible, this person knows everything, but yet he's still choosing to be. That's, to me, is not a resolution. He needs, I believe, a doctor, something, medication. Sometimes we cannot resolve. Sometimes
Yeah,
we cannot
personally.
resolve. Yeah.
Yeah. And there are
I mean,
things when you die, you'll be taking them with you. Like when you gave the example of um, Carmen's mother with the
yeah,
children fighting.
yeah,
On the other side, she's got part of the house that's in darkness and she's sad
yeah,
because she can see the kids are still fighting over whatever was unresolved before she passed.
yeah,
And that's part of what she's carrying.
yes,
But the death also is like a death of your ego, of your sense of your personality, because when you are resurrected in the other dimension, you are not that person anymore.
no, you're not. You're
But
this
you
energy. But you still have the emotions or the understandings. But now you have a higher understanding, and this is where you think, why didn't I do things differently? Why did I do this? Right? And maybe this is what we are here to experience. I mean, you believe in many that there's you believe that we reincarnate and we come back because we need to resolve, right? And I had that belief for a very long time. Right now, I'm kind of thinking I want to die and I just want to go to heaven. I've had enough. I'm not coming back anymore. Like, remember the time I told you that I actually had a vision of having had many lives with my first husband, and in every
yes.
lifetime he cheated on me and he hurt me, and I would see it, and it's like I was always upset, and but I couldn't get out because of the way things were. And in this lifetime, I got a chance to get out, so I had to come back here. I had to come back to get out. I had to come back for me. For him, he had to come back and hurt me again and leave and realize that he's hurting himself physically every day because he made a decision that hurt him. He thought it was a good decision. He thought this is something I'm going to do. And I was realizing, why have I done that? I had a wife, I had 3 children. Why did I do that? I'm assuming that's what his the way he abuses his body is all about. But for me, I had to finally move away and say, I can do better. I can do not better in relationship, but better in myself. I can study, I can do anything I want to do. I can achieve and I can be anything I want to be, right? But in all the
And
achievements I've
also
made,
you're not worthless because he
yeah,
left you. You are powerful and you are love.
yes. And that's a tough lesson I have to live with every day because those days I feel that way. This is the human in
Still,
me.
no, I
Oh,
think you're
no.
different from
Yeah,
before
totally
when I
different.
first met you.
Definitely different.
I don't think you were in any way like when I met you because that was still something you carried. I think the love within you, and it's
Yes.
expanded in a way that is so enormous that you don't need to prove
No,
your worth, or
no,
it just
I
you
don't.
just you're more yourself. You're just naturally yourself. And this
It
to me,
still haunts me when it comes to my children.
yeah. So you see, like Carmen's mother in heaven is looking at her children and the sadness. That's how you
Yeah,
see it. You see the echoes repeating down the line.
yeah.
But
And
you
I
and
wanna
your
find the
marriage,
peace. Yeah, my marriage.
yeah,
No,
you don't have that sense of worthlessness.
no.
Because this to me is the resurrection. Okay, I'm just getting at my another piece. The
Okay.
resurrection is, even if you don't believe in past lives, it doesn't really matter. Through this marriage, the first marriage where you were a teenager, and then the husband leaves you for another person, you feel worthless. But then as you go through life, you see that that's not true. You're resurrecting your own sense of self through a
I,
deeper sense of love
I understand what you're saying.
that's
Yeah.
within. You didn't have to die and come back and go to another lifetime where you
Dementia.
had this husband who left you again for another woman. You know, you don't have to keep you
No,
don't have to die in order to be
I've
resurrected.
made peace with this part of my life. And I made peace also with art because I thought, like, why is he doing that? Then I realized this is who he is. I can't control that. I can only control how I feel. So this is just the understandings I received in my lifetime, and I'm trying to understand where I reside in my with my children. Trying to understand why sometimes they see me. Sometimes I feel like they see me as being weak, but maybe that's my misconception. Maybe they think I am so powerful, I could do anything, that they don't really need to be here to help me,
That's
right?
right.
I've given them all this wrong, and like I'm this Wonder Woman. My daughter used to call me Wonder Woman, but I'm not. And as I become closer and closer to an older age, I'm not old, but sometimes I feel like my body has been shutting down on me a lot the last couple of weeks, and I'm feeling like I can't control it. I mean, feeling that way, I feel vulnerable.
Yeah.
And who do I
Yeah.
turn to when I'm vulnerable? My mommy came to me. The other three kids couldn't take care of her. She had me. Who does Gina have? I have God. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all I have. And that's okay. Because you know what? Because Jesus is love. And he's put this huge love in my heart for everybody and for everything. And I always forgive and I always love. And if they don't want to talk to me or be part of me or sometimes not talk to me or sometimes love me and sometimes not love me, that's okay too. Yeah.
It's also on the shoulders or the heart of the children to step forward and take care of their parents. So part of it is, when my parents raised us, they used to threaten us with, "You're not going to look after me. You're going to be like these other kids that don't look after their parents." And I was like, I never argued back. But when I got old, it worked because I wanted to prove them wrong. And also, the children at some point have to realize the value of looking after their parents from inside their own heart. If
Yeah.
my parents said you had to do it, it wouldn't have been the same as me then from my own heart going, no, I'm not just doing this to prove them wrong. it, it's I'm doing it because they are my parents and I love them. And I think sometimes love has to have a space to happen. If parents are saying to their children, you have to do something, they never do it. But when children are given that space to show
Yeah.
love, they do it naturally, because if you reject your parents, it's actually the worst thing you can do. Some of our parents are very, very hard people to love and to accept, but rejecting your parents
Sometimes. Yeah.
completely is actually really, really one of the hardest things that you can do, because you're rejecting your own DNA. You're rejecting a part of your
Yeah.
history.
And that makes a person very bitter eventually.
Bitter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you
I've
end
seen
up
that
living
happen.
with the bitterness.
Yeah. And always hating your parents, but it's not your parents. You're bitter. You're bitter because of yourself, because of the way you don't like who you are, and you want to blame somebody else for it.
Yeah, and I know for a lot of people, you've got parents that are very unhealthy, so you might spend the majority of your life trying to work out, why did I get born to such a dysfunctional, terrible
Yes,
person? However, there's a really good book. It's by Robert Schwartz, and that definitely does deal with past lives if you're interested in that. And it's called I'll get the book. And he has some great case studies, because there's some people that are born to alcoholic parents, or
yeah.
some people born to abusive parents,
Hmm.
and they understand from the soul level why that parent was chosen, because it's not an easy parent to accept.
Yes,
So I wanted to thank you, Gina, for sharing that beautiful experience, all of those experiences with your parents and your father,
yeah.
that interdimensional
Yes, I've
dance.
forgotten about that. Oh my God, I'm so yeah, the dance. I can't wait to go dancing with, what did she call him? I cannot wait to go dancing with my honey. She used something. It wasn't your father. I can't wait to go dancing with, And it's
Maybe
like
she was going to dance with several men. Maybe that was one of her fantasies. She wanted
I
to.
wouldn't put it past her. Take away all the hindrances. Yes, I mean she's such a social butterfly. She was. Eh? Oh my goodness.
We know of one person in India. They were married to a man who she was deeply in love with, and he was with her, and she couldn't get over her husband's death. I don't know this person, but we've been told about her. And so she went to see him in the other side. They did a process with her in India so she could see her husband. And he was dancing with all these dancing girls. He was like a floozy. He was like having a party. He's like, and he said to his wife, who's still alive, he's like, "What are you doing? I'm having a great time." And then
Go away.
he go, and in that moment, she was like, "Oh, I can get over my husband now. He's having a great time, and I don't want to, keep mourning a man that's having making love with other women." So she finally got rid of the grief that she was carrying about.
That's why he showed her that. He showed that to her on purpose.
Yeah.
Because carrying grief, I miss my mom, but then I'm thinking, but really and truly, I didn't really have my mom with me anymore for 5 years before she died, 5 or 6 years, because I couldn't have a conversation with her that made actual sense. Even longer. I mean, I miss my sister. My sister and I used to have. She was my BFF, right? And I found out too late because we're such the age difference, right? So, um, I and we had told each other we're going to grow old together. We're going to do holidays together. And then she chose to die because she couldn't handle the pain. Again, the pain of cancer for 6 years, 3 major surgeries, right? So, and I dreamt of her that she was at a road and two sections. She had to take a road, and and I thought she'd wait for me. When I heard that she was dying, I was rushing to the hospital, and I thought she'd wait for me. But I believe she chose not to see me because she realized that she had to take the road of death because she couldn't live anymore. She was tired. So the body gets tired, right? Like Jesus. God, why have you forsaken me? The body gets tired, and the mind cannot handle the pain. So interesting. Yeah, that's a good way of describing the resurrection. And then we go to a better place. At least it's a place of, well, hopefully it's a better place. A place of peace, right? Peace and love, usually, sometimes, depending on the person.
Yeah, and what you want to choose in the
Yeah,
afterlife.
exactly.
And
Interesting.
what is your afterlife based on the choices of this life? Yeah.
Love is
So,
good, guys. Choose love. Choose love, everybody.
yeah, and choose the afterlife that you would like to have. Like I do like about Carmen's mother, your ex-mother-in-law, how she had a nice house with flowers. Even that was pretty good.
As a start, yes, for her.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So thanks everyone for watching. And if you have some other insights on the resurrection and what that can hold as a message, not actual what happens in the afterlife. If people want to know what happens in the afterlife, I've got a lot of teachings around that through various teachers, and I'll put the links in my other video about that, because I have an explanation of the afterlife teachings. But we're looking more like what resurrection means for you personally, because that what you shared, Gina, today about that experience with your father, and also going through the cross and facing death and looking for a way out where someone can find a peace or find a place of acceptance, or maybe it is just peace with being out of this body,
Yeah.
and being free, from my point of view, being free of the cycle of your relationships like
Pain.
you had with your ex.
Oh. Just being free from pain, mental and physical pain, turmoil. I think that's what we want. If we could find peace within, that would be heaven on earth. Yeah. Yeah.
So let's leave it there. Thank you so much,
Okay.
Gina.
Thank you, Angela. So nice. Thank you.
Maya's shared resurrection for her is the healing and the experience of death physically and spiritually. Ah,
Ah, right.
thanks,
Healing
Maya.
experience. Thank you. Yep. Totally. Missed you, Maya. So nice that you joined us.